down in Arkansas. Take me there. Hey, yeah.
Bobby Vandell here, really happy to be here with a phenomenal guitar player, a guy that I've been playing on my show, Bridge to the Blues on Jazz 88 for a while. And just a real pleasure to be here at Hopkins Center for the Arts to present Mr. Larry McCray.
What's up, Bobby?
Thank you so much, man.
Man, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I know you are.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. We're glad to have you back. I heard we were talking about some time that you took off, and
Yeah.
and for some health reasons, and you're back, and we are happy about that.
Happy to be back. And my management, a guy that I've worked with for 30-something years, passed on. And when you have a relationship that long with a certain individual, you know, it's hard to find a new home as well, you know. So I went through that total transition, you know, trying to not only coming back from a hiatus, but, you know, starting over new in business, trying to find a new home that
And
way.
losing a friend, too.
Yeah, and losing a friend.
Yeah, I'm so sorry for that loss.
I
man.
appreciate that.
We are happy that you can celebrate life with by playing again back on stage.
That's about the best thing for me, because that's when I feel my best. I'm the happiest when I'm trying to make music, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I get that totally. I was listening today. I heard the song before, but Down to the Bottom. Mm-hmm. You wrote the song. You wrote the lyrics and the music.
Yes.
And I checked out the video. I hadn't done that before. You said you're a YouTuber. I kind of am too. Yeah, I dig that. And I was struck by the video. It seemed like the little boy in the video might have been yourself as a young man. As a young boy.
That's where we were coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. So and that was your roots. Magnolia, is that the Arkansas? That's where you're from?
Well, you know, I've been preaching Magnolia's praises my whole career, and something occurred to me weeks ago, and that is I have to apologize to Smackover, Arkansas, because that's where I was really born. But you know how it is when you from a place so small, you tend to tell people the closest place that they might recognize. That they might recognize. Yeah, so Magnolia was the closest place to me, you know, in terms of what other people that weren't from that area would recognize.
Yeah.
But I was born in Smackover, and my older siblings went to school in Stevens, Arkansas.
Okay.
By the time I was old enough to go to school, my family had moved to McNeil, Arkansas, which is in between Stevens and Magnolia.
Okay.
So you got Magnolia, McNeil, Camden, and Stevens. All these little villages,
towns.
you know, that are just right next to each other.
Yeah.
And Smackover, don't talk about Big Smackover.
I like the name Smackover.
Smackover.
That's like a musician's name, Smackover.
And do you know that I met a lady from Smackover at one of the festivals haven't been long ago, and she said, hey, she said, you know, you from Smackover? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, me too, I know what it is.
Was she the only person?
That's been so far. That's been the only person.
The only person
that you know that I have run into that know where that is.
Well, I'm never. Just so you know, I'm never going to forget that name again. And if I come close to that place, I'm going to go to it. I'm going to go to Smackover.
Well, it used to be a paper mill there, so.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
You know, it was nothing but the woods, the sticks, and it was agriculture and cattle farming.
Yeah.
You know, some people raise cattle.
Sure.
Most people farm, and then a lot of people just lived off the lands and in the woods. You know, just it was rural living. I left there in the '60s. I left Arkansas in '71.
Okay.
So you know, my memories were all created, you know, during the '60s.
During that time.
Yeah, during the '60s.
And that's where that song was coming from.
Oh yeah, yes sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's so
Born
cool.
in Arkansas, feeding hogs and baling straw.
I checked
sorghum fields, you know.
Check that lyric out, man, for sure. Yeah, it was very. Your voice. I mean, I don't know which to talk about first, your voice or your guitar playing. I love your singing voice. You've got such a nice, beautiful, low resonance to it, but you can be really gritty and nasty too, which I really dig that contrast. But you are a singer. A lot of blues artists aren't.
Well, for me, because of, I just spoke a little bit about my upbringing. Being a young child in an environment like that, the only relief that you had was either sports or music or something like that. You had to get into something to, entertain yourself to keep from going crazy because it was nothing but work.
Yeah.
So when it's only work, you have to figure out ways to have fun.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, my dad was a musician. My older sister, who passed me the guitar.
Carla?
Clara.
Oh, Clara, okay.
Yep, no, you're close.
I was close.
Clara, yep, Clara. And my dad's mother is the one who gave it to her.
Okay.
So my grandmother played guitar, then my big sister did. Then, it come to me. I was the first of the younger half of the siblings to start. Then my brother Carl picked up bass, and my brother Steve started playing drums, and we had a trio.
Yeah.
And we were the McCray brothers for probably the first 14, 15 years, I was out trying to play.
Yeah, for sure. I hear Freddie in your playing.
Oh, yeah. Well, reflective again of my upbringing, that was the main music, what I heard as a kid. I heard the blues first. I heard the music of Muddy Waters, Fred McDowell, Mississippi Fred. Probably was Booker White. That real Furry Lewis, the real Delta sound, the real low down, hard
Early
hitting.
Delta
Yeah, the hard blues, Sun House,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then when I moved from that, I learned the electric blues, and then that consisted of B.B. King, Albert King, Freddie King, Albert Collins, Guitar Slim.
Yeah.
I liked from Chicago, Mighty Joe Young. Just anybody that was playing electric guitar, but it had to be to a certain intensity level. So my knowledge, my seeking out, trying to find higher learning and better players, took you to a whole lot of different. Took me to a lot of different phases.
It's cool. I'm glad to hear you talk about that because you seem a man can be judged by his company, and the company that you keep is pretty incredible. People like Warren Haynes and Joe Bonamassa.
Those guys are great. Man.
Those guys look up to you. They revere you. They respect you, and that's some pretty good company you're in, man.
That's some great company to keep. And I don't know, so much. I'm very humble. I don't try to think more of myself or my music than I should. I mean, I've had a very tumultuous career, and if you want to measure that by, that type of success by money and stuff like that, I didn't make a lot of money in my career, but I made an awful lot of friends.
Yeah.
And I do think that I was able to make a statement enough to be heard, to be identified.
Yeah.
And that's what I always tried to do. I tried to have an identifiable sound.
Yeah.
And my whole aspiration, the reason that I ever started playing the way that I did, I love blues music first. But I also come up in an era and a generation where that music was very disrespected. And most people, when they would hear the blues or something like that, it was more like a joke.
Are you talking about the South?
No, this is after I had moved away. I moved to Michigan when I was 12 years old, 11, 12 years old. I went to
Saginaw.
Yes, went to Saginaw. And, the music scene there was quite different than, where I come from. They didn't recognize that or didn't know what that was. But by the same token, when I went there and noticed that, I also noticed a lot of different things. I started listening to heavy metal like Judas Priest. I listened to a lot of Ted Nugent. I listened to Def Leppard. I listened to all the guys that were popular at that time. And when I would hear the guitar, I'm like, well, hell, they ain't doing nothing but playing their version of the blues. The blues can be this same thing if you can emulate that feeling and that sound.
Absolutely. That brings me to another point I wanted to make. I hear, I worked a lot as a drummer. I played with Roy Buchanan. I played with Curtis Salgado. So I've been around a little bit in the blues.
Yes, sir. You've been out there.
And I'm a big blues fan. A lot of the people I played with over the years, a lot of blues artists, they pretty much stick to shuffles or slow 12/8 blues. But you, I noticed that you are one of those cats that just rocks hard. I mean, when you play, you're not just stuck into shuffles.
No.
Or slow blues. You are rocking it, and that must be where it comes from, huh?
That's the only way, in my mind, in my opinion, that the music can grow to something different. A lot of people that are purists would just rather see it stay to shuffles and stay to the tribute music, and which I love. Don't get me wrong.
Me too.
I love the tradition, and I love to pay homage and tribute to those people. But those people have said just about everything it is to say in the blues already.
I totally agree.
So as an artist, how do you supposed to create or to find your own path if you aren't allowed to step outside of the box?
I love that.
And to look at it from a different way.
I love that.
So
and that's what you're doing.
That's all I'm blues to heart, even to music, to the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I try to, the other thing that is very important about changing it is the rhythmic concept.
Yeah.
If you don't change the rhythmic concept, then you're going to always be stuck to a shuffle or a ba-bum, ba-bum, or whatever, whatever it is whatever it is that's traditional.
Yeah.
If you can't step outside, you're playing the tradition.
Well, good for you for opening your ears and listening to some rock players and bringing that into your blues, and I just love it. It's so great.
It comes down to a time or a thing where that is just like cooking.
Yeah.
And so you have to be careful not to go too far overboard.
Yeah.
Whether it turns to something different, unrecognizable.
Right.
But you want just enough spice so the people who know what you're cooking know what they got.
What a great analogy.
You know what I'm saying? Right or wrong.
Absolutely.
So it's easy to overdo it. You wouldn't put 10 pounds of sugar in one pie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
right.
It's using the right ingredients and the right amounts. And I think that's very important.
I agree. I think bands. I think of bands like the Allman Brothers, who really did that early on too. They weren't just a traditional blues group, but they had elements of blues group.
Well, Greg
blues
told me that when they were too young to even get into the club or to play somewhere. Him and Floyd Miles, I think they grew up in Daytona because they sing about going back to Daytona and everything. I don't know the exact history, but I know they, in Daytona and Savannah, they had a lot of connections in both of those towns. Yeah. But in Daytona, after they had moved, but still too young to get in, they would go there and see Bobby Blue Bland through the window. And somehow or another, Greg and Wayne Bennett hooked up and became friends. And then, that music, he never lost the influence. So to me, the Allman Brothers were blues players.
Yeah.
It was just blues players from a different background. We were the black kids in the neighborhood playing what we knew and what we thought it was.
Yeah.
Well, they heard it and it struck them too.
Yeah.
So they created their own sound, their own thing, their own version,
Yeah.
and take on what was being said. And it evolved to who they became.
Just like you're doing.
Trying to get there.
How long have you been back now, playing live? Since you took your hiatus?
About 16.
Oh no! 2016.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
you've been back for a little while.
Yeah. So what is that? That's 8 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
My dad's a math teacher, and I'm really a horrible mathematician. He'd be so mad at me right now. But yeah, I mean that's great. So you're kind of finding your comfort zone again.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's great, man. I'm so happy.
And just like I said, thank the Lord for places like this. This is a wonderful place right here.
It is a great venue.
It sounds great, and to get a chance to play these kind of room, perform in these kind of places, is kind of like putting a cherry on top of the cheesecake.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same way. I've played some venues like this too, and it always feels good, doesn't it?
And I'm friends with Curtis too, by the way.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, I talked to him today. He said to say hi.
Yeah. Good. You tell him I said the same.
I will do that for sure. Yeah. Did you ever meet Roy Buchanan?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
But I was very, very familiar with his music, and very sad, when I found out how things ended
Yeah,
for him.
it was rough, but
a weird situation.
You would have
know?
loved Roy too. He's not like you. He liked to
Cool people.
incorporate, the blues into some new kind of music.
Yeah.
He was very much like that.
When a guitar sang the blues.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We're looking forward to hearing you tonight. I'm really excited, man. Your band is smoking.
Thank you, brother.
I enjoyed the sound check a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's
Larry McCray.
Pleasure's all man. Hey, you
My
blues
pleasure.
fans, your number one blues man saying, look out. We're right here tonight in Hopkins, Minnesota.
Absolutely. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Just a
Thank you,
pleasure.
brother.
You got to want your soul shine.